this war with wanting to be seen and not wanting to be perceived.
Hey guys, this is Chauncey from Session Stories, and today we're joined by Brooklyn-based artist Joe Blutt. Their debut album, An Almond-Shaped Moon, and Four Things I've Never Knew About Myself, is a striking first release, a project that feels both cohesive and expansive, blending a variety of sonic textures that reflect a deeply introspective and evolving sense of identity. And with the new untitled track on the way, it feels like Jill's only getting started, and we're super stoked to have you here. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
I
course.
love I love what you had to say about the EP. That's really nice.
So across the EP, there's a reoccurring feeling of being split between versions of yourself, whether it's in pieces or like even anatomy. So was that something you were consciously exploring while writing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the common thread throughout all of my music is this like existentialism that kind of like verges on annoying at times. And it's like that's sort of my experience of life is just being constantly dissecting everything through this like existential lens. And it's not intentional necessarily. It's like that's just kind of much to my chagrin the way that my brain works sometimes. And so I feel like this EP was for me about allegorizing that and breaking down how that's the body, that's the mind, that's the identity as a whole that's constantly just like going through these existential splits, like you said.
Yeah, I really like the sense of like the physical imagery with your track Salt. It almost has this like metamorphosis type feel to it.
Yeah.
So does that song feel more like becoming something new or understanding what's already there?
It's a good question. Stating the obvious, but sort of a combination of the two. That song for me was probably the first thing that I made that didn't try to explain itself, and that felt like a big step away from the stuff that I've been making before. So in that sense, definitely becoming something new, and I think that's what the song is also, coincidentally about. But also kind of this like examination of like zooming in on becoming something new, being a pattern that you're always doing over and over again, and every time kind of looking down and realizing that you've been that version of yourself before.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, I was listening to the EP today, but then I like, I'm a nerd, so I went through and also listened to, like, all the or went through and reread all the lyrics as well, so in the lyrics, there's, like, a tension between, like, wanting to be seen, but also maybe sometimes wanting to disappear, even in something like, Mantelpiece,
Yeah.
where there's the idea of, like, legacy and being remembered come into play, so where does that push and pull come from for you?
Yeah, I think that's like, kind of where the existentialism ties in again, where I kind of always find it amusing. It's like an inside joke with myself that I have chosen a path that is so heavy on the being perceived.
Yeah.
For somebody who's generally pretty uncomfortable with being perceived, and it's something that always feels like it's not really my choice in the matter. It's like, yeah, this is my little cross to bear. But it's just like this irony of like I'm always joking about how there's good and bad types of attention. I have a list in my phone of like birthdays, hate that attention when they're singing to you and you're just sitting there. But like, when you are the hottest person in the grocery store, love that attention. Like just this kind of like you said, it's a push and pull, and being an artist for anybody, I think, is such a uncomfortable. Well, maybe for some people less uncomfortable than others, but this war with wanting to be seen and not wanting to be perceived, and wanting to be seen a specific way, and accepting that you have no control over how people interpret anything you do as an artist or just as a person.
I was listening again and like your sound blends these like 90s drum and bass textures and then you have like these atmospheric dream pop and an ethereal sound. So what draws you to that contrast or like how did you like land on that combination?
I think also this EP was in a lot of ways like the first of something for me. And I think it's the first time that I really felt like I was able to incorporate so many of the different like genres and stylistic music traits that inspire me without consciously going, oh, I'm going to pull this from here, I'm going to pull that from there. I think there's, for the sake of the algorithms, a trend in music now to say, what if it was this but that? What if it was 90s dream pop but make it, drum and bass jungle? And I think in the past, I was finding myself doing more of that and consciously trying to incorporate all these different versions of myself and all these different seemingly incohesive segments. This EP marked for me like the first time that I looked down at the music I was making and was like, oh, all of these different points of reference have added up to become, at the end of the day, like a circle where I'm not intentionally going this direction or going that direction or trying to play into this version of myself. You can hear all these little pieces there, and you can hear things that I wasn't aware that I was putting in there. But I'm a big fan of 90s music in general, electronica. I love breakbeats, I love jungle. That's like, kind of like where my music community is a lot of the time, is on
Yeah.
the dance floors. But I make lyric forward, like not necessarily dance music. So it's been kind of years of clumsily exploring how those things can interact. And I feel like recently is the first time that I kind of stopped trying to force an interaction so hard and just stepped back and saw what came out. And what came out was kind of an interaction. So
Yeah.
worked out well.
It was amazing. I was listening to it again. It was the face of nostalgia. I was like, okay, I feel like a bit of like old school Madonna, like Ray of Light, and
Totally.
and then there was like a bit of
That
dark
whole
out.
record, so good.
Such a good album from her. But yeah, it was just, I was listening to it and I was like, it's crazy because it feels like it could live in different eras. Like, you have to excuse me, I forget the name of the song, but there's like one song that you have that feels like a complete 80s ballad. Like it comes in with the synth waves, and I was like, it feels
Yeah,
like it could live
that
in
was
the
probably
80s.
Mantelpiece, yeah.
Yeah, yes, mantelpiece. It feels like it could live in the 80s or present time, but like it has this like nostalgic but still like fresh and current feel. So
Yeah.
yeah, I sent your EP to a couple of my friends that love this genre, and they're like, "Who is this?" I was like, "I know.
Thank
Don't
you.
forget
You're doing the Lord's work.
I told you about this."
Like, another one of the things that I have always tried to do that I kinda let myself keep trying to do is I have this weird fixation with, like, timelessness in, like, how I dress or anything. Like, something feels very at home for me in being a little bit, like, era-ambiguous. That's, like, one of the more, like, fun limitations that I try to put on things, is, like, that feels like it challenges me creatively to be like, "Well, let's find a way to make this thing that is so distinctly, like, early 2000s feel a little more 80s or vice versa," or, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I went back and looked through some of your music videos, and all of the videos have this, like, distinct visual world, like dream spaces, and then you look at Mantelpiece, for instance, and then you have, like, the old school infomercials, which I'm always a massive fan of. So, what draws you to that kind of imagery?
As far as, like, the visuals go, I always say, like, if it wasn't music for me, it would have been film. I watch a lot of movies constantly. I, like, don't share my location with anybody, and that's for privacy reasons, but they all know that I'm just in my apartment, like, watching movies.
Same.
I love like, it's not like I'm doing anything mysterious, but something about, like, being off the grid with my movies feels, like, very important.
Or for me, I find myself in a movie theater, and no one's
Yeah,
heard.
like, let me do my thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something very sacred about, watching movies for me. I feel like I've always been an escapist. I've always been somebody who, like, really wants to feel engrossed by whatever media I'm interacting, whatever art I'm interacting with. And some of my favorite movies are, like, films that take you somewhere that you've never been before, that feels sort of, like, uncannily familiar, but also completely wrong. Like you said, like, when your dream brain tries to conjure up something familiar and, like, totally fucks it up.
Yeah.
Um, and you're like, "I know that was my mother, but it looked nothing like her," you know? So I feel like I have always tried to, like, tap into that with the world building of it all, and really lean into, like, world building in general. The whole point of all of this for me is to, like I said, like, be seen in a specific way. And so I feel like my effort to do that is to, like, try to invite people into this place that, for me, feels like a collective familiarity, like something that we can all see a piece of ourselves in, but like a funhouse mirror version of it. I love David Lynch. I'm sure that, that comes through. That was like my parasocial relationship, like I was
Yeah.
I was really like we're gonna hang out someday and we're gonna become best friends and everything's gonna go exact. And that fantasy got a little bit less realistic in the last couple of years. But
Yeah.
um, I
R.I.P.
yeah, that one hit me. That one hit me. I was filming the salt video that day that I found out, and I had to take it. I I haven't been affected by a celebrity death like that since Prince, and so that's always been in there among some other visual artists and filmmakers.
Also, I don't know why, but Anthony Bourdain was another one for me.
I could see that. I could see that for sure.
Old solo as like a
He
woman by myself, so it was like, "What's happening?" But yeah, I understand.
Also, something about his just like ethos, and I think it was similar for me with David Lynch, is something about not just his work as a public figure, as an artist, as a writer, but
Yeah.
like his worldview was hugely influential to me. I feel like is in so much that I do. I feel like Bourdain is a similar one where it was more about the values and the perspective than anything else.
Yeah, I definitely need to send you a list of movies now that I know that you're a cinephile.
Please.
On the topic of dreamscapes, there's also that finally the new A24 movie that's coming
Oh,
out,
I'm ready.
Backrooms.
There's something about all right, so Backrooms is like the main. I'm not completely familiar with the lore, but are you familiar with the Pool Rooms series?
Yes.
Those.
The pool rooms, and they have like the old school like a old school like imagine like Chuck E. Cheese that's
Mhm.
no like desolate, no longer there. But I've been watching Backrooms since
Something
forever.
about it's really comforting for me. I know it's supposed to be scary, and I guess it is a little bit, but there's something, and maybe this is why it's effective, but there's something really like kind of cozy about
Exactly.
the Backrooms.
I show my friends, and I'm like, I would love to be trapped here. And they're like, "Are you okay?"
They're like, I'm scared. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I think there's something kind of comforting about even that type of unsettling imagery.
And I have to admit, like, this is like such a strong like debut. So like now that it's out, do you feel like it says everything that you needed it to say?
Hardly. I mean, so this struggle with being a solo artist, and I don't have a team or anything. It's just me. I always find that by the time I'm able to get music out there, like I'm already mentally like onto what's next. And I feel like I'm not supposed to admit that. I'm supposed to be like, this is this is everything right now. But I'm very much just like always turning out new stuff and continuing a narrative. And it can be really frustrating the way that like, by the time that I get all my ducks in a row and put something out, I'm like, you guys need to hear the next thing. There's definitely more to come. Definitely some slight, like genre switch ups or maybe just like vibe switch ups.
Yeah.
All still like in the same vein of the things that I love all coming through. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is really kind of the tip of the iceberg of like the world that I want to keep building and the story that I want to keep telling. But it's a pretty reliable tip for what the rest of the iceberg looks like.
And what I like is that a lot of your lyrics, like, they feel internal, like almost like having a conversation with yourself. So when you release music or tracks or whatever, does it ever feel cathartic and like you're letting people in a sense?
Definitely, yeah. Like I said, this one took a while to get out. I was sitting on these tracks for some of them like almost 3 years. There were things that logistically, like I said, held me up along the way. Part of it is just having to do a lot of things myself. Part of it is, at times being like, maybe I could get this on a little indie label somewhere, something that could give it a little extra push. And then eventually just being like, you know what? Like I said, the story is continuing and I want to keep telling it. And to do that, I need to just, get this out there. And I realized towards the end that part of the delay was just about wanting to control, the way that it landed or the people that it landed with. And I was really like surprised and kind of amused by how good it felt to finally send it to my distributor out after like a year of it being done, of it being ready to go. And was like, why did I expect to feel worse after? Like, I feel obviously a lot better, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But in my head, it was going to be so, like, oh, these songs are me and these songs are like the most honest and like personal thing I've ever done. Like it's got to be just right. And then as soon as it was on its way out, I was like, no, it doesn't. It's honestly better if it's not just right. It just needs to be.
Yeah.
But of course, I'm gonna forget that on the next release, and then the next one, and the next one.
And with the Entitled track coming out soon, do you feel like continuing the same thread from the EP or moving on to maybe like something different?
It feels different internally. For one thing, the EP was entirely self-produced. Those were all songs that I made alone in my apartment, and I'm somebody who loves being alone, and I think it's kind of a superpower at times, but I think it's also like kind of compulsive at times, and I get so comfortable in my comfort zone that I think that the last thing I need is to have that disrupted. And a lot of the newer stuff I've been making is collaborations with people. I think that alone is, like a diversion from what I've been doing. I think you can hear that and feel that there. I think also like topically, like Almond-Shaped Moon was, like you said, very like introspective and a lot about me and about my relationships. And obviously, like you could argue that anything anybody ever writes is about themselves, but I think the newer stuff feels like it's more to do with my relationship to the world around me. And I think that there are themes of that in the EP that it'll continue on, but I think it's kind of like turning the camera from me to like my POV, narrative wise.
And what do you have on the docket for 2026? So you released the EP last year, but any music? Do you have any shows? Like what's the year look like for you?
Yeah, so new music. This new single is coming out June 1st. I just sent it out yesterday. Bunch of other songs that I think will probably be singles because honestly, it's just easier to release and promote singles. But I'm kind of like letting them tell me what they want to be. If there's a larger body of work that like wants to come out of that, maybe it will. A couple of shows lined up. I have a band now, which is really fun. It used to be just like me with, Ableton and like a keyboard sometimes, which was great, but got kind of lonely. And it felt like sometimes people were like, just sing the song, like, so
Yeah.
it's really fun to have other people up there with me, and you're just kind of like, oh yeah, like this is what it's all about. There's a show at Sleepwalk in Williamsburg on June 18th, and then the big 2026 project I'm excited about right now is with this EP. There was supposed to originally be this whole like art installation component, and I think that in my mind it would have been very easy to make a piece of art and be like, okay, who wants to show this in like a gallery or wherever. And it
Yeah.
kind of didn't occur to me that like the art world is as institutionally gatekept as the music industry, if not worse.
But yeah.
So, I kind of like put a pause on that aspect of the EP also because I didn't want to delay the release of the music itself anymore. And that art piece has finally found a home. And I'm doing a gallery thing in July with like music and stuff. It's a lot to explain like in words, but I'll be posting on Instagram and stuff about this. It's like a multimedia sculptural thing.
That's awesome. But yeah, I think those were the main questions I had for you. But are there any final questions that you would like to leave your fans and listeners with?
Not necessarily any questions, but I just really
Sorry,
appreciate.
I just meant final thoughts. Sorry,
Oh no, it's okay.
I messed up. Sorry.
That's all good. I mean, no, I'm like, are there any questions for that? No, I mean, as far as final thoughts, it can be kind of depressing to release music in like the current streaming culture climate, and it feels really exciting to know that people are still digging around for things that, the algorithms might not be showing them, and makes me feel excited about just the future of music in general, that those fans are still active and, not numbered, and just like, I don't know. I appreciate the platforms that connect me to those people, and I appreciate those people. That's all.
People, so listen, very large, pretty